Well, winter weather has finally arrived here in the northern US, which has put me in the mood for a favorite wintertime drink. No, not booze this time. I'm talking about hot chocolate. Chocolate has been consumed as a drink in the Americas for thousands of years. The Mesoamericans would flavor it with honey and different spices, and they introduced it to Spanish conquistadors, who then introduced it to Europe, and it quickly became a prized luxury for Spanish royalty. And from there, it spread all across the continent, although mostly just to other royals at first. Of course, these days, making hot chocolate is as easy as tearing open a packet of Swiss Miss, but I was curious as to how my ancestors might have made it. Specifically, my German ancestors, because this recipe comes from the New Franconian Cookbook by M.D. Funk, published in 1816. But I'll be honest, most of my Bavarian ancestors were poor farmers at this point in history, so they probably didn't own this cookbook, nor would have been able to afford much chocolate at the time. But on the off chance that they did, they probably would have made it like this. To half a mass of milk or cream, you take 4 or even 6 lots of chocolate, grate it on a grater or just cut it up, bring it into a tall dish that holds half a mass, pour a little boiling milk on top of the cut chocolate so it becomes soft. Then boil half a mass of milk in a saucepan, mix the chocolate with it, and cook it a little with a lump of sugar and a little cinnamon. Then you mix 5 or 6 egg yolks very well with the chocolate mixture, stir the chocolate into it, and fill it into the designated pot. You usually add bread that has been baked and crumbly. I'm not doing that. The chocolate is made in the same way with wine and water, you just have to add 2 more egg yolks. If you noticed, the recipe is lacking a few details such as how much sugar or cinnamon to add, but I'll cover all that right now. To make 1816 hot chocolate, you'll need 2.5 ounces or 70.4 grams of unsweetened chocolate. The original recipe says you can use 4 or even 6 lots of chocolate, which comes out to about 3.75 ounces or 105 grams of chocolate, so add more chocolate if you feel like it. 2.25 cups or 532 milliliters of milk. Before you ask, yes, you can use a milk alternative. I made a batch using oat milk and it turned out great. 2.5 tablespoons sugar. The ratio of sugar to chocolate is 1 tablespoon per ounce of chocolate, so if you're increasing the amount of chocolate that you use, make sure you increase the sugar accordingly. 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon. I'm using Ceylon cinnamon or true cinnamon, which would have been the cinnamon in the 1800s. Today it's more commonly found in Mexican cuisine and I think European baked goods. The taste is a little more subtle and sweeter than the cassia cinnamon that you find in most US and Canadian supermarkets, but use whatever kind of cinnamon you've got handy. 6 egg yolks whisked together. Now let's hot this chocolate. Grate or cut the chocolate into very small pieces. The benefit of grating is that you get much finer pieces and the chocolate will incorporate into the milk a bit better, but chopping is much faster and less messy. But if you do decide to chop, just make sure that you get the pieces as small and as fine as possible. Heat the milk in a saucepan over medium heat, bring it to a boil, stirring or whisking periodically to keep the milk from burning, then turn the heat down to a simmer. Put the chocolate in another pot, turn the heat to low, add a ladle or 2 of the simmering milk to the chocolate, and mix until they're well incorporated. Honestly, you could probably do this all in one pot, but I decided to mostly follow the recipe. Pour the rest of the milk into the chocolate pot, turn the heat to medium, and whisk vigorously. Whisk in the sugar and the cinnamon, and heat for 4 to 5 minutes, whisking frequently so that the chocolate doesn't sink to the bottom of the pot and burn. Take a ladle full of the hot chocolate and mix it with the egg yolks to temper them. This will keep the eggs from scrambling, as you probably don't want scrambled eggs in your hot chocolate. Take the pot off the heat, whisk in the egg yolks, and keep whisking until the chocolate is nice and foamy. You can put the pot back on low heat, but I'd recommend serving almost immediately. So in the interim between filming and editing, I did try making a batch of this hot chocolate using heavy cream. If you notice, the recipe does say you can use milk or cream. It made the hot chocolate very thick, very rich, pretty delicious, to be honest. So if you want to give that a try, I'd recommend it. Just be prepared for your hot chocolate to have more of the texture of maybe like chocolate pudding. I ended up actually eating some with the spoon. So but just be forewarned. I mean, it's tasty. Definitely tastes more like dark chocolate than like milk chocolate, but I prefer dark chocolate, so that's fine with me. The cinnamon is definitely more of a subtle flavor. You get it more on the back end and the aftertaste, but it's very pleasant. But if you really like cinnamon flavor, I would say add more than a teaspoon. And the egg yolks do exactly what they're meant to do. Add a thickness and creaminess to the chocolate. That's kind of nothing like I've ever had before. I've never had a beverage thickened with egg yolks, so this is a whole new experience for me. Of course, it is a bit more work than just microwaving a hot cocoa packet, but I think it's worth it, especially if you're feeling old-timey and cozy. And if you want to pretend you're one of the 5 richest kings of Europe, you could add some vanilla or vanilla bean, which I think would make it even nicer. Vanilla was even more expensive in the early 1800s than chocolate, which is probably why it wasn't included in this recipe. So that's 1816 German hot chocolate. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you give the recipe a try, let me know in the comments how it turned out. I've got the written recipe up on gen-EAT-alogy.com. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on gen-EAT-alogy.